Yo, what's good, everybody? And today we're going to be talking about the day 3 recap of the NFL Scouting Combine, and pretty much the final day that I'm going to be watching because I'm not going to watch O-line that is occurring later today at the recording of this video. So what happened? We had quarterbacks, wide receivers, and running backs. First, it started out with the running backs, people that I had my eye on, and that actually really proved themselves. The first one is Bashal Tutin, who had some concerns about whether or not you're going to be a guy that was going to be worth spending a mid-round pick on, as he was kind of in the lower end of the running back rankings for this class. He plays a little bit smaller than he should at 5'9", 206, but his game seemed to have had concerns about whether or not he was going to play up to even his small stature. But super fast, 4.32, one of the fastest times in the entire combine, and he did well. He also had a great vertical jump, 40 and a half inches. So that was really good to see. That was the top in the running back class in general. And then he also had a top four broad jump at 10.10. So pretty good. I apologize, by the way. I'm a little bit sniffly. It's cold outside. But let's continue moving on. Jaden Blue from Texas. Texas showed their speed today. He ran a 4.38, second in the class for the running backs. That was great. Other guys that I was looking at, guys who I feel like their stocks went down a little bit. Omarion Hampton is one of them, as well as Caleb Johnson, who both were considered running back 2 or 3 in this class going into the combine. A lot of people had them over the Judkinses and the Travion Hendersons, but now I feel as though they didn't perform well enough to the standard that I was looking for to where they were going to remain at RB2 and RB3. I would much rather have a Judkins or a Henderson for upside purposes. Talking about Judkins, of course, we know what he can do on the field. Could he back up in those drills, different various athletic drills, the same type of skill set? And he did. You could see he was easily the shiftiest one out there when it came to the running back specific drills on the field. Then another guy I was really impressed with, who ran about a 4.51, which was top end of the class, but as a power back, Damian Martinez out of Miami. He is typically a power back, and in some ways can be considered playing fullback on certain sets. He does a great job of just bouncing off defenders and finding open holes while being patient with it. But he ran to a speed that you want him to run. It's nearly sub 4.5. So that was great. Another guy I was pretty impressed with as well, as far as his skill set went, but not necessarily his speed, was Kyle Monangai. I'm going to be looking for him to be a sleeper, like in terms of not necessarily being drafted high, but I think he's a guy that you could bring into a good NFL system at an RB3 level, and hopefully he gets his chance at a certain point. But if he just even does pass catching downs, that would be great. That would be great. I think he would thrive in that type of role. So I like him, even though he didn't have the best day necessarily as far as the athletic portion of the combine went. Like I said, Jaden Blue played great as well. I also didn't really like what I saw out of Jarquez Hunter and RJ Harvey. That's just me personally. RJ Harvey did run a 4.4, so there's that. But I just wasn't really seeing it. For some reason, his performance wasn't really moving me, but maybe that's just me. Other than that, really good running back class, as we've seen. Moving on. Wide receivers. The wide receiver we must absolutely talk about is Matthew Golden out of Texas. His teammate out of Texas, of course, Isaiah Bond, talked a lot of smack going into the 40-yard dash, saying he was going to break all the records, saying that he was going to be the fastest person, not just in the combine, but in history of the 40-yard dash. Did that happen? Absolutely not. What is the record? 4.2? And what did he run? He ran a 4.41. I think his best time officially ended up being a 4.39, actually, now that I'm looking at it. But still, that's only about top half of the receiver class. Just over top half. Matthew Golden, his teammate, ran a 4.29, fastest in the wide receiver class of this year. So, if you're Isaiah Bond talking all that smack going into it, this is not a good look for you. Because even out of your college team of people in this draft, you weren't the fastest. And who even ran, Jaden Blue, your running back, even ran a better 40 time than you. So that's not good, because you carried yourself with an ego going into it and you couldn't even back it up. So Matthew Golden played really well, looked really, really solid out there. Another guy that looked great, 4.3 speed, Dante Thornton at junior at his height out of Tennessee. He is 6'5", 205, and he ran a 4.3, second in the class. He also looks great in the pass catching drills, very poised, very fast, very explosive. He's a guy that's definitely a riser, because he wasn't necessarily heavy on my radar prior to this. Other guys that I really like, Jalen Noel looked really good in the pass catching drills. Luther Burden, of course, looked great. He ran a 4.41, and he showed a lot of, what he is capable of doing when they were doing the drills. A lot of people really played great in the drills. A guy that I was really excited about as well, at 6'4", 222 pounds. Savion Williams out of TCU. I've been talking about this guy since I started my pre-draft coverage. 4.48 speed at that size. And I hear that he's even played quarterback in the past, like back in high school or something, he played quarterback. And that's why TCU has basically had him everywhere on the field. Wildcat, getting the ball snapped, running back, wide receiver, slot, wideout. He can do it all, and he has great yak ability. So I think a guy like Savion Williams is going to be an absolute steal for very creative offenses, and offenses that use a lot of motion. For example, the Lions, or potentially the Jets, who have the Lions passing coordinator from last year, Tanner Engstrand. Just these creative offenses that are new gen, that like to use motion, that like to use guys in different areas, very versatile guys. Savion Williams is going to be an absolute steal for y'all. And he is going to be an asset to an electric new gen offense out there in the draft. He didn't really participate too much in the pass catching drills, though he did run the 40. He took a couple passes, and then I think he was done after that. But still, I'm very happy from what I saw from him, because running a 4.48 at that size, big win. Of course, not as good as Dante Thornton, but Savion Williams has 20 pounds on him. Tez Johnson I wasn't impressed with. I saw some mixed reviews about him, because he's a little on the smaller side, 5'9", 155 pounds, I believe. Look, he's 10 pounds lighter than me. I'm 5'9". He's a professional football player, and he ran a 4.51 officially. So I've heard mixed reviews about whether or not, this obviously isn't a good look for his athletic measurables. However, some people like to play devil's advocate and say that this is a good opportunity for a strength and conditioning coach in the NFL to really develop this guy, because he has a lot of great other skills. Trey Harris running a 4.54 at his size, also a big win. Also a big win for him. So those are the guys that stuck out to me. Very excited about what we're going to see out of Jalen Noel, out of Jaden Higgins, those Iowa State guys. And Sam Brown, by the way. Sam Brown out of Miami, proving a little bit that, Cam Ward might not just be one of the premier Miami players out of this draft. Sam Brown, 6'2", 200 pounds. He had a 90 athleticism score out of 100, though, according to Next Gen Stats. So his production scores didn't look great, just because he didn't participate in all of the athletic drills, and he also didn't really do that great, stick out from the pack when it came to the wide receiver specific drills. But his athleticism scores look great. 41.5 vertical jump, 4.44 speed, and on a 1.52 10-yard split. So great to see that. Then, of course, the position that everyone is talking about, quarterback. Quarterback. Who was sticking out at quarterback? So, there were two groups on the day. The first group came out, and that was your, excuse me. Let's see. That was, trying to remember it. Was it Jack? It was Jackson Dart that was out there, and he looked amazing. He had great arm talent that he showed off. He was super accurate, and he was making all the passes with the touch that you wanted in the drills. And in my opinion, until it remains to be seen what Shedeur does on his pro day, Jackson Dart is now my QB2 in this draft. I think he's that good at his size with his intangibles, and those are things that Shedeur unfortunately doesn't have. Shedeur has very average intangibles. Quinn Ewers was another guy that really stuck out to me because he was incredibly accurate. A lot of people are very high on him right now. So I'd expect Quinn Ewers to be around my QB5 in this draft, but that's because I'm favoring a little bit with the side of Jalen Milroe, who went in the second group, but I'll get onto that in a bit. Guys who didn't impress me, Will Howard did not impress me whatsoever. Very inaccurate, just inconsistent on the day. And that's not what you like to see from a guy that highly touts his accuracy ability and his ball placement and his ability to get the ball out and put it accurately on air. He did not do so. He did not show that, and his draft stock is plummeting due to that, in my opinion. Riley Leonard, also a similar situation. The guy who played against him in the national championship game also showed inconsistency in that second group. When the second group did go on, I was a big fan of, like I said, Jalen Milroe. I think Jalen Milroe at this point, and I tweeted this out as well, I want the record to show once and for all that Jalen Milroe is not a guy who looked like he can't throw NFL level passes. He showed passing skill today. He showed he was able to get that ball out pretty accurately. Like, probably if it weren't for the likes of like a Tyler Shaw, to pale in comparison to that, Jalen Milroe did well in the passing drills yesterday. I was very impressed. Because he has everything. The narrative is that he has everything except for his passing ability. So there were questions about whether or not he would excel if he was declaring for the draft under a different position, such as running back or receiver or tight end. But he shut all that down today. He's my QB4 in this draft. 100% my QB4 in this draft. Behind Shedeur, behind Dart, behind Ward. And I would be very happy if my team personally was to draft him in the second or third round. He sits for a year behind a veteran passer, learns better technique, mechanics, stance, dropbacks, and timing off those dropbacks, getting that ball out early, because his accuracy can be there. When you're able to let him just drive the ball down the field, let him take his time, he's great. If he just speeds that up just a little bit and is comfortable with that, he's gonna be amazing. So if he gets into an NFL system, is able to sit for a year, he can be a star one day. I fully believe that with his upside. And then following him, I believe Ewers did great as well. Tyler Shaw also showed great passing prowess yesterday. I'm not super high on him just because of the amount of time he spent in college and how old he is at this point. But I think that he's a guy that is capable of potentially, I think he's up to the scale or caliber of some of these other, veteran bridge quarterbacks out there that kind of don't really have a whole lot of upside to help you like win games on a consistent basis and make the playoffs and compete at a high level. But I think, he's the type of guy who's very mature. He's very polished. He's able to help a team, kind of relatively stay in games. Take with that what you will. I mean, I really don't see too much upside with him, but I think he's very polished. I'll say that. Other than that, there was a question about people and the atmosphere and the morale of certain teams as it pertained to the way they viewed this quarterback class as a whole. From what I've seen, the different coaches and scouts that were in Indianapolis were getting very low on this quarterback class because after the hand size measurements, according to the measured stats, there were only two quarterbacks who had who were tied for the largest hand size. That was Riley Leonard, obviously big dude, and that was Jackson Dart, who had a 9.5-inch hand size. A lot of the other quarterbacks were struggling to even surpass 9-inch hand size, which is the threshold that you want to see for a measured hand size for a quarterback, which isn't the best when these guys are holding the ball the majority of the time for the game. And Jalen Milroe, in a bizarre fashion, apparently grew over half an inch hand size since the Senior Bowl. I don't even know how that works or what the science behind that is, but he got above that threshold. But there were a lot of guys who had very average hand size as far as that goes. And I think Shedeur even had, just a 9-inch hand size, which is just at the threshold, if I'm not mistaken. So not necessarily what you'd like to see. For me, it's not necessarily the most important thing, but I guess it bodes poorly as far as the upside of this whole class in general. Remains to be seen how people are going to view that, but it seemed like at the time right after that happened, people were starting to get very low on this quarterback class, but then it got kicked back up a little bit after they pretty much all showed up to work when it came to doing the passing drills. So good to be seen. Arm talent was shown for Milroe and Dart. Nice deep ball. Quinn Ewers showed elite accuracy and ability to make those passes with touch. And yeah, those are the guys who stuck out to me. Tyler Shaw also played great, like I said. And Will Howard, stock plummeting. Riley Leonard, stock plummeting. Also not impressed with the Brady Cooks of the world, Max Brosmers, etc. So, yeah, that was basically day 3 of the NFL Scouting Combine. Other than that, we had, news circulating around. And like I said, it changes every day. Now it seems that, teams like the Jets and the Giants are heavily in pursuit of that number 1 pick to trade up to. The Giants obviously have a better trade package for that. And then, other than that, they showed a lot of interviews. It's going to change every day, guys. So I'm not going to even begin to discuss it. But the big news that did happen is that Deebo Samuel is traded to the Commanders for a 5th-round pick. This is an effort of the 49ers. Big trade, by the way. But it's in the effort of the 49ers being able to try and get younger and also shave off a lot of the heavy-hitting salaries that are on their team currently from some of these aging guys. And as they get younger, they're going to probably attempt to retool in probably not free agency, just because they already have a very expensive team coming up here. Brock Purdy's a guy that needs to get extended. Other younger guys need to get extended that are key for the future. And so they're probably going to attempt to retool or re-up in the draft significantly. We see Deebo Samuel traded from the 49ers side, and we're likely going to see Ayuk traded. Of course, McCaffrey is aging too with his injury proneness. And we have Garendo and Jordan Mason backing him up, who are 2 younger guys who showed promise last year. As far as Ayuk goes, he's been I believe he's been unhappy for a while in San Francisco, and so it's going to seem like he's probably going to be traded along with Deebo. Probably going to go for a little bit more as he is 27 years old. And then other than that, we're going to probably see Travarius Ward traded, et cetera, et cetera. So 49ers, there's a path to them being able to remain competitive, but I believe their starting point is going to be from extending their younger guys who they see as key for the future. From the Commander side, this is an amazing deal. I mean, you had $100 million in cap space basically going into this free agency before even the idea that you had $22 million extra that the NFL just kicked into gear. So you had money to spend. You're able to afford the, what is it, 11 or $13 million salary that Debo basically has, like base salary. So perfect. You get a guy who's basically a Swiss Army knife, can be used in multiple different ways, and adds multiple new dimensions for your offense, because not only is he a top tier receiver, he's a guy who can run the jet sweep and he can do different things in the Wildcat sets, etc. So with Jayden Daniels, this is going to be extremely exciting because you get such a versatile guy. Jayden Daniels alone with Terry McLaurin and Brian Robinson, and then a bunch of role players basically that you signed on one-year deals, that was already scary enough. But you add Debo to that, who adds more than one point of attack, like, that your offense can use. Amazing trade for just a 5th-round pick. Amazing trade. The Commanders are going to be very scary next year, especially if they continue to build off of this and build around Jayden Daniels in the right way and continue to protect him. And then all they need to do is basically re-up on defensive depth, because at that point your offense is pretty scary right now as it is. Who's to say what they're going to add if they add another weapon in free agency or the draft, or they add a more reliable backup RB to Brian Robinson in a stacked running back class, or you get a tight end in the draft as well in a stacked tight end draft. As you know, Zach Ertz, and the stuff that he does get, it's getting to a point. But yeah, let me know what y'all thought in the comments of the day, of the whole weekend, and all the news that came out. And let me know what y'all are excited about for the draft in the comments. And if you're excited for free agency, make sure to drop a like if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you are new, and follow me on all socials in the description. Peace.